You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Y&R fans. As always, on Friday, we've got juicy spoilers for next week. Jack Abbott is kicking Diane Jenkins to the curb, and the cops are combing through Daniel Romalotti's apartment, and boy, do they get the goods. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt. Please click subscribe if you're not following us, and we're going to dive into these hot spoilers. And as always, we will have the full roster of Young and the Restless weekly spoilers for you tomorrow. So we have got spoilers for Jack and Diane, for Daniel and his father Danny, and also for Chance and the crime scene where Heather Stevens died. So diving in, we're going to start with the Abbott action. If you are current on your Y&R episodes for this week, you will know that Jack and Diane have been having more fights that are getting increasingly bitter, and they are in public. So it's pretty embarrassing for the family and for the couple. Jack has decided rather unfairly that Diane is the reason that Kyle Abbott is being awful and has fallen prey to the toxic influence of Victor Newman. And for her part, Diane thinks Kyle has been coddled by Jack, so he's an entitled brat that thinks he can get away with anything and everything. Complicating all of this, of course, is that Diane faked her death and abandoned her son for 2 decades, more than 2 decades. So she came back to get to know Kyle, and she earned both Jack and Kyle's forgiveness. But now they have both turned on her and decided she's the same old Diane she always was, selfish and manipulative. And Victor has been spilling that poison into her ear, saying things to her like that. And for my part, you know, a lot of people have been doubting she's changed, but I have seen no indication to the contrary. To me, it does look like Diane has actually changed. But Victor's poisonous words have eaten into Kyle's brain, and then he has repeated these things to Jack and in front of Jack, and he now seems to believe it too. So Victor's plan to ruin the Abbotts has been a smashing success, and that's the context leading into what happens next week. So Traci Abbott sees a devastated Diane Jenkins in the living room of the mansion. Traci asks what happened, and Diane says that Jack asked her to move out. The last argument we saw was Diane telling Kyle that he hit a new low by stealing Jabot's product, and Jack reminded her that she walked out on their son. And see right there, how does that justify what Kyle did? It doesn't. Those two things are chalk and cheese, but that's the kind of stuff that Jack is doing. And so Diane called Jack mean, and he called her a narcissist, and then she just walked away from both of them. And now he has asked Diane to pack and go, so I'm pretty sure she will. But I bet Jack is going to regret it. But then again, we all know just how stubborn that Abbott man can be when he gets a bug up his butt about something. And right now that bug is Victor. So next we have spoilers about the search in Daniel's apartment for more evidence. Just to set the stage for this, what I'm about to tell you may be new info. If you've not already seen Friday's Y&R episode, which is Michelle Stafford's 30th anniversary, and it does have some flashbacks, but it also has a lot to do with moving the Heather murder storyline forward. So Phyllis is certain on Friday that Sharon killed Heather and is framing Daniel, but her kids are skeptical. Phyllis told them what Sharon is capable of, how Sharon threw her down the stairs once in a jealous rage, and how Sharon tampered with Summers' paternity test so it would say that Jack was her father and not Nick. And, you know, Phyllis pretty much figured out the whole scenario. She told them she thinks Sharon went to the apartment, found Heather alone. They argued, and her death was some kind of accident. And Phyllis can see very clearly that this evidence was planted, and it's just all too neat. She vows on Friday to get the proof that Sharon did this so that she can exonerate Daniel. And Phyllis also thinks she can convince Chance because she doubts that he thinks Daniel did this either. But Summer wants Daniel to get a lawyer. So now we head into what's happening next week with this context. Next week, there's a GCPD team scouring Heather and Daniel's apartment for evidence. Chance is sitting on the sofa looking at a piece of pink paper. Maybe it's a kid's drawing. Maybe it's a flyer. I don't know. Hard to tell if that's important or not because the other police are searching all around the room. So there's an officer behind the couch looking at the floor, and he says to Chance, "We've got something." If you don't recall where that officer is, that's the general area where Heather's corpse was lying dead before Sharon wrapped her up in the sheets and the blanket, tied her up, and hauled her out of there. If I had to guess, I suspect they found some blood spatter that should match Heather. Sharon wiped things up hastily, then she got out of there so she could dump the body. And she's not exactly savvy on how to clean up a crime scene, but this evidence will only make Daniel look guiltier because it's in his apartment. And speaking of him, next week, the prime suspect talks to his dad, Daniel Romalotti, via video call. So this past week that we're just ending, Chance was there with Daniel when they heard Heather's phone chime, and Chance pulled it out of the cabinet where Sharon planted it with those bloody towels. But if you don't recall why Chance was there, he was there because Phyllis encouraged Daniel to let Chance search his place, and he agreed because Daniel had nothing to hide, or so he thought. And he was very upfront with Chance about the text from Heather's phone and that they went to meet the person who never showed up. And again, Daniel has alibis for when Heather died, and the very fact that he let Chance in there to search, that all works in his favor. So next week, Danny calls his son Daniel on a video chat and asks, "What exactly is this evidence the police have against you?" And Daniel says, "It's solid enough that I'm expecting a knock at my door at any moment." I'm assuming he and Lucy are, I think they're staying, I'm not assuming, they are staying at the GCAC because Chance said they couldn't stay at the apartment because it's a crime scene. So hopefully Phyllis and Summer will intervene and convince Chance that everything is a little too easy solving this crime. And really, why would Daniel hide bloody towels in his apartment and then call Chance and say, "Sure, come by and search, no problem"? Plus, there should be a timestamp on the unsent text to Paul that should be after Heather's time of death. Then we have Daniel's alibis because he was with Lucy when Heather died and when the text came in from her phone. Plus, there is no physical evidence in Daniel's car. That would be there if he transported Heather's body to take it to the river to dump it. And Daniel's car was with him and Lucy because they were, I think, at the movies when Sharon was killing Heather. And then his car has been in the condo parking lot. Otherwise, the only thing going against him is what Sharon said about them arguing that Heather told her that, which she wouldn't have. Everybody knows that. Like literally nobody in town would say, "Oh yeah, Heather would have told Sharon that." Nobody would say that. And then of course there's the planted evidence and that draft text. It's essentially hearsay and circumstantial evidence against him. And I bet after this video call, Danny is going to send Christine Williams back to Genoa City to protect Daniel Romalotti from this frame job that Sharon has done on him. We do know for sure that Laura Lee Bell is returning soon to Y&R. And as much as Phyllis does not like cricket, I bet she's going to be really glad to have her there repping Daniel. Heck, it might be enough to end their years-old rivalry because Phyllis will be eternally grateful if Christine saves him from what Sharon is doing.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.